Argentina's Senate is debating the voluntary interruption of pregnancy bill. Chile's Undersecretary of Public Health announced that one case of the new strain of the coronavirus initially detected in the United Kingdom has been confirmed in the country. Iran launched the first phase of a clinical trial of a nationally developed vaccine this Tuesday. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South, and I'm Katrina Goss. Argentina's Senate is debating the voluntary interruption of pregnancy bill this Tuesday. The debate began at 4 p.m. local time, while women's movements have gathered around the Congress to express their support for the legalization of abortion. Meanwhile, the legislative plenary is expected to approve another bill that will create a 1,000-day plan to strengthen existing support and care measures for women during pregnancy and in the first 1,000 days of a child's life. Should senators pass the bill, as is hoped, it would mark a historic step for both Argentina and the region, where the struggle for the right to free, safe and legal abortion is ongoing. And pro-choice demonstrators gathered outside the Argentine Congress this Tuesday as the Senate prepared to discuss the bill to legalize abortion.
Many expectations for today. It's very even, but at the same time, we know that now this is promoted by the government, so that gives us a little more security. Our country is a country that has many contradictions but also many achievements. Our country is the only one in the world that tried the genocidal men of the military dictatorship with all the guarantees. And we still do not have legal abortion. We have been able to do that, and we still do not have legal abortion. Why? Because the church is with the state.
And staying in Argentina, the country has launched a nationwide COVID-19 vaccination campaign using the Sputnik V shots developed by Russia. Argentina is the first country in the Americas to use the Russian vaccine to combat the novel coronavirus. The vaccination drive began simultaneously across the country, with frontline healthcare workers and high-risk individuals given priority. 300,000 doses of the vaccine have been distributed throughout the country using state logistical support and following all biosecurity protocols. Authorities of the Brazilian city of Rio de Janeiro announced they will block access to its famous beaches this December 31st. As part of the measures to curb the spread of COVID-19, the municipality of Rio de Janeiro will also prohibit the movement of vehicles along 30 kilometers of the coastline. Only people from adjacent neighborhoods will have access to the area. Those who do not comply with the regulations will be sanctioned. Rio de Janeiro is one of the cities most affected by the coronavirus pandemic. It is a long-standing tradition for Rio residents to celebrate the end of the year with fireworks on its beaches. Chilean police once again repressed demonstrators as they paid tribute to the victims of last year's widespread police violence. Dozens of demonstrators gathered on the main avenue of the capital city, Santiago, carrying photographs and placards to pay tribute to the victims of police violence in the country. In particular, they paid tribute to Mauricio Fredes, a young man who drowned after falling into a water-filled pit after having been hit by a police anti-riot vehicle's water cannon during the repression of the widespread social unrest that broke out in Chile in 2019. Peru's Congress has rejected a new agricultural bill amid protests by sector workers. With 16 votes in favour, 45 against and 58 abstentions, the legislative plenary did not approve the reform bill that largely consisted of the proposals made by the government. The bill will now return for a second time to the Economic Committee of Congress, which will be responsible for drafting and presenting a new proposal. Agricultural sector workers, who are still actively mobilising to demand that their proposals be included in the bill, applauded the result, while stressing that they will continue to protest until Congress hears their demands. Keiko Fujimori is set to run for president in Peru's 2021 general elections after the Supreme Court ruled out a request to disqualify her far-right Popular Force party from participating in the vote. The prosecutor's office had requested that the party led by Fujimori be banned from conducting political activities for 2.5 years due to the alleged illegal contributions that it received from the Brazilian construction company Odebrecht. Although Keiko Fujimori must wait for the electoral authority's final decision on her presidential candidacy, she now has a green light to contest the elections to be held in April 2021. Fujimori was the first candidate to apply to stand in the presidential elections on December 20th, along with her running mates. She previously lost the presidential elections in 2011 and 2016. Conditionally released in April this year, Fujimori is still awaiting trial on charges of money laundering, obstruction of justice and other crimes. Violence and insecurity are on the rise in Honduras as a result of the high unemployment rate, which has been aggravated by the COVID-19 pandemic and the impact of 2 tropical storms. Figures reveal that over 300,000 people have lost their jobs. We have more details in the following report.
Assaults and kidnappings have become more common in recent months in Honduras due to the economic crisis that has become more acute with the closure of businesses during the lockdown decreed to counter the coronavirus pandemic.
More than 3,346 homicides have occurred so far this year, including an average of 27 deaths of women per month. That is 330 women who have lost their lives this year.
The increase in violence has been registered since the coup of 2009, accompanied by an economic crisis that worsened each year, leading to an overall poverty rate of 70%.
In recent years, Honduras has experienced an increase in poverty without precedent in the history of the country, without ignoring that violence has been a structural problem due to the colonial way in which the country was managed and the capitalist system itself.
For human rights defenders, the critical economic situation is due to the lack of government planning, which has failed to create the conditions to counteract the effects of the closure of small and medium-sized businesses.
It is this economic crisis and the way the government has handled the restrictions. It has been very ambiguous. Often, there is no precision in the measures. We should recall that at the beginning, there were very individualized limitations, and they were enforced violently.
According to forecasts by the Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, poverty could rise in Honduras by over 6% after the pandemic and the tropical storms that recently affected the country.
TeleSUR Honduras.
Chile's Undersecretary of Public Health announced that 1 case of the new strain of the coronavirus, initially detected in the United Kingdom, had been confirmed in the country, representing the first such reported infection in Latin America.
The result of this analysis, which was confirmed yesterday, corresponds to the SARS-CoV-2 strain VUI 2020 December 1st, the same strain found in the United Kingdom. We have decided to take a completely transitory measure that, as of December 31, all Chileans, all foreigners residing in Chile and all foreigners entering our country must spend 10 days in quarantine. Because this person had been in the UK before, the sample was sent to the Institute of Public Health to sequence all those people who came from the UK to identify the SARS-CoV-2 variant.
Venezuelan authorities signed a contract with Russia this Tuesday to acquire the Sputnik V coronavirus vaccine. The official signing ceremony was headed by Venezuelan Vice President Delcy Rodriguez, who was accompanied by Health Minister Carlos Alvarado, Foreign Minister Jorge Ariasa, and the Russian Ambassador to Venezuela, Sergei Milik Bagdagsarov. The Vice President noted that the contract represents the first stage of the country's plan to vaccinate 10 million people against COVID-19. Likewise, she highlighted Venezuela's contributions to the development of the Russian vaccine, having participated in phase 3 clinical trials. Rodriguez also expressed her gratitude to Russia for its support in dealing with the epidemic and highlighted the strategic alliances between the two countries.
Venezuela has just signed the contract for the acquisition of the Sputnik V vaccine. We are in this first stage. We have signed to vaccine 10 million people. We are already programming the first stage. We must also highlight that Venezuela is contributing to the Russia vaccine by carrying out phase 3 clinical trials. As you know, we are vaccinating the population, a population that is part of these studies, and it is very important. It is really the step forward that Russia took with its vaccine, a safe vaccine.
Meanwhile, the Russian ambassador to Venezuela stated that the signing of the agreement to supply the Sputnik V vaccine will further strengthen the ties between Moscow and Caracas.
Which is not a simple task, is a result of very important work carried out by Venezuelan doctors, with the clinical trials, with the documentation, which is not easy at all. For me, as an ambassador, it is a great honor to be here at this ceremony and also to represent my government here in our strategic relationship with Venezuela, which is a very prudent country. a very prudent government, very progressive. And I believe that we will continue our relationship and a strategic partnership in all areas for the future of our countries, of our people.
The French health minister announced that authorities were planning to extend the country's nighttime curfew in regions where the novel coronavirus is spreading the most, particularly in eastern France, near the borders with Germany, Switzerland and Italy.
We are ruling out the idea of another lockdown. At this stage, we do not want to implement a nationwide or local lockdown. However, we will propose an extension of the curfew which, instead of starting at 8 p.m., will start at 6 p.m. in all the regions where it is needed. In some cities or regions where the incidence rate is above the maximum alert level. These measures will be implemented from January 2nd, 2021.
Health experts in the United Kingdom are blaming a new strain of the coronavirus first identified in southeast England for soaring infection rates. Official figures show more people are currently hospitalised with COVID-19 in England than at the first peak of the outbreak in the spring.
We can see that the scale of transmission has sort of gone up a gear. You know, we're not grinding along in first or second gear. We're up into third now, and the way that the infection's transmitting is speeding up with these new variants. Inevitably, variation will be driven not so much by transmission as by immunity as we get levels of community vaccination up. So the vaccines will have to be fine-tuned and adjusted according to whatever strain is most prevalent in the future. We hope it'll just stabilize out over time, but at the moment it is mutating and changing.
The United Kingdom has reported its highest daily figure of new coronavirus cases since the pandemic began. A total of 53,135 new cases were confirmed on Tuesday, while the government also announced that 414 more people had died within 28 days of testing positive for COVID-19. The new figures come the day after the UK's number of coronavirus cases rose by more than 40,000 in a single day for the first time during the pandemic. Residents in the Spanish capital Madrid have reacted to announcements that authorities will create a register of people who refuse to be vaccinated against COVID-19. Spanish authorities noted that while they will share this data with other European countries, it will not be made public.
We have the choice to be vaccinated or not. It seems good to me, and it is recorded in a register. I think it's good too. We've been asking for the vaccine for so long, and the fact that now some people do not want to be vaccinated because the vaccine is relatively new seems silly to me. So yes, I think it is good to register the person who doesn't want to be vaccinated.
I think it's an attack of freedom. I think it annoys me that they keep a register of who is vaccinating and especially who is not. But at the same time, I understand that if not enough people, a sufficient percentage of the population are vaccinated, the vaccine is useless, and I'm really concerned about the health issue.
Authorities in the southern Chinese city of Shenzhen, located in the economic and tech hub of Guangdong province, have started rolling out free COVID-19 vaccines for workers and students looking to travel overseas.
I registered a company in Japan before the pandemic. The situation still isn't good in Japan, so receiving this vaccine will allow me to feel a lot safer. I think China has the best control over the virus globally, so I'm confident about the vaccine that I'm taking.
I'm going to continue my studies in Britain. I've waited here for 15 minutes, and I don't feel anything irregular. I feel a lot safer after the inoculation, but no matter what, I'll still keep myself indoors and take preventive measures when I get to the UK.
And China on Tuesday announced that its recent investment deal negotiations with European Union member states have continued to make major progress. EU member states gave political backing to Brussels' planned investment pact with China on Monday, clearing the way for a deal between the world's two biggest economic blocs.
Union investment deal negotiations are currently the most important item on the agenda in terms of China-EU trade relations. With hard work from both sides, the recent negotiations have continued to achieve major progress, and the future has lots to look forward to. We hope that the agreement can come to fruition at an early date to provide a systemic framework guarantee for China-EU trade cooperation and to bring real benefits to companies and people on both sides.
Palestinian armed groups staged military exercises in Gaza on Tuesday to mark the anniversary of the start of the 2008 Gaza massacre by Israel. The drills were scheduled to last several hours and involved about 10 groups in the Israeli-occupied Palestinian territory, according to a spokesman for the Al-Quds brigades. He added that the goal of the exercise, the first of its kind, is to strengthen combatants' skills and demonstrate the unity of armed groups in Gaza. The drills also come days after Hamas denounced Israel for launching strikes that damaged a children's hospital. In December 2008, Israel launched Operation Cast Lead to allegedly stop Palestinian rocket fire into Israel. The ensuing massacre ended with a ceasefire in January 2009 after over 1,400 Palestinians were killed. Iran launched the first phase of a clinical trial of a nationally developed vaccine this Tuesday. The novel coronavirus has killed nearly 55,000 people out of more than 1.2 million cases detected in the country, according to Health Ministry data. Authorities have denounced the moves of the United States government on hampering the country's access to vaccines through sanctions, which result in international banks refusing transactions involving Iran. The vaccine project was funded by a state-run conglomerate. The vaccine will be administered to 56 volunteers in 2 doses 2 weeks apart, and the result will be announced 28 days after the second injection. Another Iranian vaccine developed at the country's Razi Institute is set to receive authorization for the start of human trials in the very near future, according to the health minister.
Another vaccine developed at the Razi Institute will receive authorization to begin the human phase in the very near future and in the phase of trials on animals, and we will know the results of the efforts of our colleagues.
Iran is expected to receive 150,000 doses of the Pfizer vaccine from US-based donors. The donation of vaccines comes as the country has struggled to contain the virus amid the US-led sanctions that have prevented it from importing much-needed medical supplies. The country also plans to receive roughly 1 million doses of a Chinese COVID-19 vaccine, according to the Red Crescent Society. Croatia's military was deployed to support the clear-up operation after a strong magnitude 6.3 earthquake struck the southeastern European nation on Tuesday. According to authorities, at least 6 people were killed and dozens injured in the quake, which struck the town of Petrinja. Troops joined emergency teams to search for survivors in the rubble of destroyed homes, with one woman found alive some 4 hours after the quake. The earthquake was felt throughout the country and in neighbouring Serbia, Bosnia and Slovenia. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov noted on Tuesday that Western countries will not be able to impede ties between Russia and Turkey, following talks with his Turkish counterpart in the Russian city of Sochi.
Relations between Russia and Turkey are self-sustainable and self-sufficient. They do not depend on someone's aggressive and hostile actions and whims. They are based on the national interests of each of our countries and on our determination to continue mutual cooperation and mutual benefit by searching for a balance of interests.
Lebanese riot police clashed with students outside the American University of Beirut, who gathered to protest the decision by top universities to adopt a new dollar exchange rate to price their tuition, which is equivalent to a major fee hike.
I came because my father had to travel abroad in order to pay the university tuition so I can study. I shouldn't have to not see my father for so many years in order to study.
Throughout this week, we are rejecting the dollarization of the fees, which is unreasonable in light of the collapse of the Lebanese pound and at the time when the American university have been accumulating profits for many years and is proud of its history at the moment of the collapse, imposing an increase of the fees, and the dollar on parents is to prevent these students from respectful education and the right to education.
China will build more than 600,000 5G base stations next year, according to its Minister of Industry and Information Technology. Speaking at a conference on Monday, Minister Xiao Yanqing noted that the construction and application of 5G networks will be conducted in an orderly manner, accelerating coverage in major cities. He added that more efforts will be made to optimize and upgrade the network, increase the number of network users to more than 200 million, and crack down on infringements of users' rights and interests by apps.
China has built 588,000 5G base stations in 2020, and all prefecture-level cities are now covered by the 5G network. Over 200 million terminals have been connected. Spam calls, telecommunications, and internet fraud and pirate radios have been reduced, and 530,000 commonly used apps have been put to test.
And we've come to the end of this news brief, but remember you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Katrina Goss, and thank you for watching.